أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. During our discussion last Sunday, we reached up to the verse Maliki Yawmiddin, and I promised to establish the correlationship of all the attributes of Allah used in these verses. So we'll have to go back for a while to restart our discussion of certain attributes used before this and then connect them up into a unified whole, interrelating with each other. Now, first of all, I begin with Ar-Rahman. Rabbul Alameen I have discussed at some length, but to connect the subject, I have to begin with Ar-Rahman. Because, as I said, the repetition of Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim is very important, because this repetition here mainly concerns the revelation of the Holy Quran. And I explained one reason why the word Ar-Rahman was used instead of Al-Alim or Al-Khaliq. For the creation of the Quran, I told you that Ar-Rahman was the most appropriate word in this context. But there is another reason why Ar-Rahman is used here. We have entered an era in the human progress where a worldwide religion was to be revealed to mankind as such. And the attribute Rahman means a kind or beneficent being which does not make distinction between one group of a people and another. Both disbelievers or believers, blacks and whites, reds and yellow, they all stand as one to that being, and his beneficence flows without differentiation, without discrimination. So it is for the first time that a worldwide religion was to be revealed. It was for the first time that a religion addressing both the blacks and the whites, the reds and the yellows, was to be revealed for the benefit of the whole mankind as such. So the most appropriate word for that should have been Rahman, because we have seen the application of Rahman vis-a-vis the entire world, and we know that the believers and non-believers are not made any distinction in the general manifestation of Rahmaniyat. The weather, for example, treats all alike. The rains come and go, the seasons come and go, and the various phenomena of science, as revealed in various branches, are equally applicable to all. No distinction is made between a dear one and the one who is not dear, one who is hostile to Allah or one who praises Him. They all stand alike. So a religion which was to be revealed not just to a tribe, to Israelites or to Hindus or to Iranians, that must have its authority from Rahmaniyat. So when Rahmaniyat appears here in the context of the revelation of the Holy Quran, it's a very great tiding that the religious benefits which remained previously limited to various people, now those benefits have been liberated from those parochial walls, and they have been made universal now, because it is the Rahman God who is now speaking, who is now giving the message. So it was impossible for the Rahman giving a message and forgetting China, for example, or Arabia, for another example. The whole mankind has to be addressed when Rahman God addresses the mankind. And one beautiful part of this, one beautiful angle of this is there. If you read the entire books, all the books, which are called the holy book, pertaining to various religions in various countries, you will not find a single reference of a book having been revealed in relation to Rahman. As I said, the Holy Quran makes it a very clear declaration, Ar-Rahman Allama al-Quran. There is not a single book in which you will find a single reference to Rahman God revealing a book to a people. It was logical that because if Israelites were addressed and the Bible said it is Rahman God who is speaking to the Israelites by the way of Torah, for example, then it would not fit into things if he spoke only for the benefit of Jews and said it was Rahman who was addressing them. His limited address would belie the word Rahman, or the source of Rahmaniyat, because Rahmaniyat has to stand for all alike together. Now there are other applications of the word Rahmaniyat which have to be explained to you, and as a Muslim you should know them, because with regards to other religions their knowledge is quite useful. Rahmaniyat is a refutation also of the philosophy of Judaism. Although the philosophy of Judaism as such, as it should have been, is correct, there is nothing wrong with it. But when I say Rahmaniyat is a refutation of the philosophy of Judaism, I only mean the distorted philosophy which came into being after a long time, since the time of Moses. When Hazrat Moses appeared, his philosophy was correct. He only addressed a limited people for a limited time. And he did not claim to monopolize religion as such. Never in Torah you will find a reference to Moses having claimed that I am monopolizing the religion of God or the mercies of God just for the sake of Israelites. All these references which you find in the Bible or interpretations of certain verses are a phenomena of later times. But now as we see Judaism, it claims that the entire contact which God ever made with mankind was only in the limited sense of his revealing himself to the prophets of Israel. And he never spoke to anybody beyond that, never addressed any part of mankind other than those areas in which Israelites appeared. And they are the sole torchbearers and the sole representatives of God, not to the whole mankind, but to themselves. That is the tragic part of it. So, Rahmaniyat tells us that if God is also Rahman, that is, He is God of all mankind and all creation, and Rabbul Alameen further extends this concept to all the known worlds which are leading to the unknown, in time and in space. And how could that God limit His mercy and His kindness only to a people of a certain region, of a certain race? And also in the same process, He seems to have forgotten the people of even that region before them. Because Israelites started only with Israel, and even Hazrat Ibrahim والسلام, Abraham, was not an Israel, because Israel was his son. So when the Israelites limit the mercy of God to Israelites, they also claim that even people of that region before Hazrat Yaqub did not receive any mercy. That is the natural corollary, natural inference they claim. But even if they don't make it, that is neither here nor there. Only a very limited ethnic group, which of all the people which inhabited those areas, according to Jewish claim, was the recipient of Allah's mercy. So Rahman refutes all these claims. It says that either God is not God of everybody, or you are wrong in your claim that God appeared only to the limited people. Now, when you come to discussions with Jews or Christians regarding the prophecy of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam or his advent, this is one of the objections they raise against you. And here the Christians join hands with Jews because it suits them. They say Allah only promised His kindness and His mercy to Abraham's sons, and of the sons, they limit His mercy only to Isaac, who is called Israel. And Ismail is also left out of that mercy. So not only God's mercy is limited to a certain people, but further distinction is made, further differentiation is made, and discrimination is made, even in the one single family, according to their claim. So the point of discussion should start from the attributes of God. You should go back to the attributes and say, do you believe God to be a Rahman God or not? Is He a God of the whole mankind and the universe or not? Were there many gods who created many universes? Many gods who created different peoples at different times? Now the Jews are very strictly monotheists. So they'll have to accept it. No, there is just one single God. So if there is one single God, then it's impossible for Him to limit Himself or His manifestations to one single people. And of that too, to be so discriminative as to reject one part of the same family and choose the other one. So this is why the understanding of Rahmaniyat is important to us, because it's fundamental to our belief, and it helps us a lot in refuting the wrong beliefs of others. But as I made it clear, we must not reject Judaism as such. Because if you reject Judaism as such, you also throw reflection upon God. Judaism, when revealed in the context of its revelation, was a perfect religion, and it met all the requirements of the people whom it addressed. Why God did not refer to Rahman at that time? Because it was in the fitness of things not to refer to Rahman, because He was appearing to them in a limited sense. So this is why He did not use the word attribute Rahman as applicable to the revelation of Torah. Now, Rahimiyat refutes the philosophy of Christianity in the same sense. But again, I warn you that the philosophy of Christianity, as adopted by the Christians of latter days, not the philosophy of Christianity of Christ, of course. Rahimiyat means a being, a quality which not only repeats itself, but when you put in labor, it gives you much more than your labor. So, it is not only a strictly just God, which is presented by the Holy Quran, or by Surah Fatiha to begin with, but more than a just God is revealed to you in the word living here. You put in your labor, and He gives you much more than you deserve. So, when He can give you much more than you deserve, how can He be considered to be so strict in His justice as to present the Jewish concept of the latter days? Now, there is a contradiction in Christianity. They laugh at Jews, they mock at Jews for their concept of justice. Now, what was the name in one of the Shakespeare's drama, which has become a classical name? Shylock. Yes. So they laugh at Shylock, and when they explain Christianity to the rest of the world, they present God exactly as a Shylock, who cannot forgive. So why have you been mocking all these centuries at the Jewish concept of justice, while you have yourself appropriated that concept? So the Holy Quran in this verse, by bringing to attention the attribute Rahimiyat, refutes the concept of Christianity that Allah cannot forgive or cannot give more than one deserve. Rahimiyat does not only apply to give more, but also contains the connotation of forgiveness. If a laborer, for example, commits a sin or makes an omission, and the proprietor who is to pay him, who has employed him, he deducts that much of his services from his requital or his reward, he cannot be called a Rahim person. He is exactly the opposite of Rahim. So if one overlooks the defects or shortcomings or omissions of labor and pays them not only to the full measure despite those defects, but in addition to that, he pays from his own pocket extra. That is Rahim. So if you believe in a Rahim God, there is absolutely no room for Christianity with the philosophy which they present to us that Allah cannot forgive sins because He is just. And just, nothing more. So that is the Shylock of a God they make, and in which no man with the normal senses or the correct poise can believe at all. Again, these verses of Surah Fatiha refute another philosophy which also affects a large section of mankind, which is the philosophy of pantheism. This has penetrated also through Sufism into Islam at various stages. But a very large region of humanity which lives outside the domains influenced by either Judaism or Christianity or Islam believe in pantheism. So by refuting that concept, these verses cover the whole mankind. Nothing is left out. Because, now one thing, Rabbul Alameen, I'll come to that later, also refutes the philosophy of redemption presented by the Hindus, and the philosophy of creation propounded by the various Hindu sects. So when we finish the discussion of that, then it will be a complete discussion. Every type of philosophy which can oppose the Islamic philosophy is dealt with in these short verses. And the fundamentals of those philosophies are hit, so that you don't have to dwell at length dealing with them and refuting them in the details of their beliefs. The fundamentals are destroyed in Surah Fatiha. And it has to be like that because Surah Fatiha is the fundamental surah controlling the entire Quran. So it could have only dealt with fundamentals of other religions as well. And the details are found elsewhere in the Holy Quran, spread over all the surahs, throwing light on how to handle all these philosophies at some detail. Those details are not omitted. But when you speak of Surah Fatiha, the fundamentals have to be shown to the world in these verses. Otherwise, the Surah Fatiha could not claim to have been the Quran or Quranul Azim, or a book or a verse covering everything pertaining to man. So now I'll come to the refutations of those two philosophies. Pantheism speaks of a God who is a phenomena of nature and does not enjoy a distinct personality as apart from nature itself. That is a top type of concept which was developed in his poetry by Wordsworth and also by Coleridge to some extent. But Wordsworth of England was one of the most important flag bearers of this type of concept of God, a pantheist God, God who reveals himself in nature and cannot be treated distinctly as a different person other than nature itself. So this is a philosophy which covers the Far East, the Chinese, the Koreans, the Japanese, and other smaller nations, Indo-Chinese nations. They all believe in one form or the other of this philosophy. Their religious denominations change many a time, from Confucius, the followers of Confucius, to some sort of Taoism or Shintoism. But this fundamental philosophy is common to all these. They say nature is God and God is nature, and there is no outside agency which can be called other than nature, a personification of powers to which they should bow. So they bow to nature as such, and they believe that their elders and the forefathers who have died, they also make a part of the nature as such, and they have to be worshipped as nature or manifestations of nature. Only man has achieved consciousness in nature. So because he has reached the summit, so the elders who have died, they go back to the same state of consciousness, mingled with nature, but not in the same body. So the elder worship has penetrated all these religions belonging to the Far East and the Southeast Asia because of this pantheist philosophy. The Holy Quran says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbul Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah, all praise be to Allah, who is the sustainer and Lord of all Alameen. Now, Alam is something which cannot exist independently of the person who knows it, or a being which knows it. Alam cannot exist. The word alam is so beautiful to express the concept of universe. that exactly fits in with the philosophy of the Holy Quran. When you say alam, there has to be one who knows, and that the person or being which knows is not a part of that alam. It has to be a different thing. So in that respect, there has to be one distinctive being, completely apart from all that is created. And that is Allah. And that being has also been described as Rabbul Alami, sustainer of that alam. And also Rabb means creator of that alam. Rabb, having combined the quality, the attributes of Rahman and Rahim, in fact also acquires the sense of creation. So Rabb is not just a being which sustains, but a being which also creates. Thirdly, Rahmaniyat also means lordship, the proprietary, the complete ownership. So there is a possession and a possessor, a slave and a lord, a thing known and a being which knows. So all these applications make it very clear that there is no concept of pantheism acceptable to Islam or the Holy Quran. But it is not just a claim. As I told you, the Holy Quran stands out in its treatment of logical arguments when it addresses the non-believers. It has a beautiful, distinct attitude which has never been adopted by other religions in such perfect beauty. It claims, and within that claim, you will find the argument itself. Apparently, from one point of view, it is a claim, but you give it a little turn, and you immediately begin to recognize that it was not a claim, it was an argument. So, Rabbul Alameen is a claim from one point of view and an argument from another. Because when you turn to the nature, there you find that the sustainer has to be something apart from what is sustained. Creator has to be something apart from what is created. Because there is perfection and harm in the creation. And things are leading to something beyond. As I said, alam also means a thing which is known thing which leads to the unknown. So that subject I have discussed at length. When you go back to that, then you'll understand that it is not a claim. It is a positive proof from the study of the universe that creator has to be different and creation has to be different. Sustainer has to be different and the sustained has to be different. Pointing finger has to be different and the one pointed out has to be different. Logically, they cannot be one and the same. And the study proves it. So pantheism goes on. So also, the concept of the Hindus, as presented by various schools of Hindu thought, that God coexisted with the universe. Although they are not pantheists, this is the difference between the philosophy of Hindus as against all the pantheistic philosophies. And once you cover the Hindu philosophy, then all the philosophies put together which were ever conceived by man to be true are dealt with by Surah Fatiha effectively. And you can't present a group of philosophies which has been left out of this. It's all comprising and leave nothing out. Now the Hindus, as I said, claim that God is a separate being, but it existed independently, not as a creator, but a coexister. And this is what has been refuted so effectively and roundly by Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam in Brahim Ahmadiyya. those of you who have read that book and with the application of mind, with that qualification, that book has to be read. Otherwise, you will not understand it. It's a concentrated book, so highly concentrated that at times you will not enjoy even the beauty of the book because it's too highly concentrated for ordinary mind to perceive. And at times you may go to sleep while reading it. Well, it's such a heavy reading for you. You know, when you go for a light reading, which is superfluous and fiction, it is seldom that you go to sleep. But turn to your syllabus and serious reading, then you'll know how quick the sleep comes to you. So this is exactly what people call boring. It's not boring. As the subject, there is nothing boring in the subject itself. There is something you lack. You're not up to that mark. And then you get bored. So many writers on Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam, particularly the hostile writers, have said that what we had heard so much of Brahine Ahmadiyya, but when we tried to read it, it was headache. We couldn't read, couldn't understand. It was like a school student trying to understand Einstein. You would create headaches to him. And hardly he would have finished the first page when he would go to sleep. So this is what this book, this great book, Brahine Ahmadiyya, causes to the ordinary students. And so I warn you, first you must bring all your faculties to be harnessed by your, to be harnessed and made ready. Enter this book before you ever endeavor to enter this book. But once you do, once you begin to understand, then you will realize why the great scholars of Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam's times paid such high tributes to this book. This is one book which created history in India. This is one book which completely opened up a new era in Islamic discussions vis-a-vis the other religions. And Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam has effectively dealt blows to all these four philosophies which I have mentioned in Brahiniya, and particularly to the Hindu philosophy. And also the Christian, of course, but the Hindu philosophy he dealt with to begin with mainly, because they were the main opponents of Islam at that time and most vocal opponents of Islam. So the whole Surah Fatiha tells us, Rabbul Alameen, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, that Allah was not a co-exister, but a creator with full knowledge and complete knowledge of the requirements. Now, if universe was on its own, eternal, then there should not have been any relationship to what it contained and what was to become later on, to appear later on, and the relationship between what it contained and what was required by the creation of the future. This is a very important point which one must understand fully. If something coexists with Allah and Allah only overpowers it, because that being is unconscious and Allah is conscious. Allah has some strength and energy to conquer things and to manipulate things, according to Hindu philosophy. And the material world has not that consciousness or that power. So he usurps the qualities which existed in the form of matter and put them together in a manner as you make potions out of various things. You put them together and bring out new qualities. So this is the job of Allah according to Hindu philosophy. At best, he was a chemist. who put various qualities together and created new attributes out of those, new qualities out of those. But the Holy Quran says that Allah is Rahman. Rahman means a being which meets with the requirements of the future creations before ever they are born. So if in the universe you find such a phenomenon that the future creations requirements are met with long before that creation ever came into being, then there has to be a conscious outside being which created that universe. Otherwise, just by chance, it cannot happen. I'll quote examples from the natural history. At various stages, the scientists tell us various stages of life were reached. For example, at some stage, dogs were created, or carnivorous animals, let's say, were created. And at other stages, herbivorous animals were created. And whenever an animal was created, his requirements were already there in nature. They were created before him. And this is a very interesting study. If you study the natural history, in this relationship of what is created and what are his requirements, you will find the whole subject perfectly matching. When man was created, all that was needed for man had been created before him. When horse was created, all that was needed for a horse, for his sustenance, had been created before him. So the progress went on. There is a sort of evolution, not only in biological life, but also in the environments. And that progress and evolution of environment is keeping pace with the requirements of the biological life. So that refutes the Hindu claim that matter coexists with God and he only played with it and controlled it and conjured up tricks by bringing into interplay various qualities which were already in existence in the universe. That is the Hindu claim. That could have happened, let's see, because nobody was born, nobody was conscious at the time of the creation. So if for a while, let's say, okay, we believe in that, but then we apply it to what we see. And according to the Holy Quran, you will see Rahmaniyat. And Rahmaniyat means, I repeat, creation of things which are not in demand at the time of creation, but will come into demand at much later stages. And that being which is created will not find itself having fallen short of requirements, deprived of certain requirements. So this is the study which will lead ultimately to the full and complete refutation of the Hindu philosophy. I'll come to another aspect of the same by bringing your attention to the requirements of man now, not as a biological life, but as a man in particular. And I have explained it at various times, only I'll shortly refer to it. That when man was created, much before man was created, his requirements had been not only fully created but preserved. And they were revealed to him only when man reached that stage of development when he could put them to some use. For example, coal was created far in advance in time before man was ever created. But the discovery of coal was made available to man only when man was capable of utilizing coal, not before that. It was hidden under the surfaces. When man reached a stage of scientific achievements and progress in knowledge, where he could dig for his things so deep as to bring out coal and to put it to certain use like external combustion engines. It was only then when coal was made available to him. Again, internal combustion engines came into being much later. Or we put it in another way, man reached a stage of knowledge and progress where he could invent internal combustion engines, for which coal would not meet his requirements. He needed oil. And that oil, which he needed at a much later stage of his development, had been created long before his creation, or even the creation of his ancestors, or even the creation of their ancestors. So long before that about 3 billion years before the creation of man, the oil was not only created in a form, but was also preserved in a manner that it will not be wasted. It will not mix and thin out with other things. It will remain preserved and well tucked up in certain places where man will reach it only when he will require it. This is Rahmaniyat. And how can you say that Allah coexisted with dead matter and brought it to life only through his mingling things together? Because in that case, this Rahmaniyat could not come into place. Only a conscious creator thinking of making a blueprint first of his creation, then giving a detail or let us say, to deal in detail with each quality of his creation and his requirements, could have thought of these things. He has to be a creator. Otherwise, he could not have gone into such complete planning of creation. So that oil, as I was talking about, was created long before, so long that when the age of dinosaurs was covering the whole globe, almost the entire globe, and every other form of life was subservient to it. And the dinosaurs, in fact, saw so supreme that if evolution had gone on in that direction, the evolution must have met with a blind end ultimately. Because dinosaurs was increasing in their size and in their requirements. And the entire vegetation of the whole earth could not sustain them for a very long time. And if they had, the life had continued to progress or to evolve in that direction, to evolve in that direction, then there would have been a blind alley ultimately. Beyond that, evolution could not progress because the means of sustenance would have fallen short. So a shorter, smaller type of life with a different trend and orientation had to be given impetus for further development. And this type of life had to be brought to an end. And it was. And such an abrupt end that even today scientists are trying to solve the mystery and they have failed to solve the mystery. One theory is projected and they think they have solved, and then later on another theory comes and they say, no, we have not yet solved that mystery. The mystery of a meteor falling with certain chemicals brought to the earth, that was at one time very popular theory. But now it has gone overboard. But we're not concerned with that. Let's fall back to the subject. The question arises, if God could not pursue the same line of development to its ultimate consummation. Was that a mistake by God? That a wrong alley was followed, and after following it for some time, suddenly God realized that, oh, this creation will not provide the purpose, and I must retreat my steps and start creating differently from a different line. Is that the possibility? Some philosophers believe exactly that is the perhaps reason why it so happened. And as I mentioned, Ouspensky in another context is one of those philosophers who deals with the subject of creation, and he agrees with the beautiful world of Allah's creation. But he believes also, by looking at these things, that perhaps creation was made by the process of committing mistakes and eliminations and learning from the mistakes. So Allah went on committing mistakes and started learning from those mistakes and changed his life. And he also quotes this creation of the dinosaurs, for instance. He says dinosaurs, if they were permitted an unlimited progress, would have eaten themselves up, consumed themselves up ultimately, and died of starvation, and the whole globe would have returned to the same old era of aridness from which it had taken life. But that was not so. So according to him, God retreated his steps and started another way, followed another route of evolution. But the Holy Quran explains it, and Surah Fatiha explains it, and it tells us that everything was created not in vain, but for some requirement, some need to be fulfilled. Now the scientists have discovered this, and they say that all those dinosaurs got buried and went into making of oil. And the oil-rich areas of the world are those where not only those dinosaurs, but early life abundant in sea also settled down, and they were turned into oil, and that energy was converted for the sake of future man. This is Rahmaniyat. And the Hindus claim that God coexisted with nature independently. Nature was independent and God was independent, and later on he harnessed the nature. But nature itself belies this. So when I said God makes claims in the Holy Quran, but when you look at the claims and analyze them, you suddenly begin to discover that they were not claims. They were arguments, and irrefutable arguments for that. Because a reference to nature is made in the same claims, and by the study of nature, you understand the arguments. Now there is another interesting, now coming to the subject of correlationship. Let's now understand how the words or attributes are placed in relation to each other. You will find the Rahmaniyat closer to Rabubiyat, and Rahimiyat closer to Malikiyat. And it is not just by chance. It was designed so, intentionally. And Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has revealed the reason why. He says, Ar-Rahmanu, Rahmanud Dunya, War-Rahimu, Rahimul Akhirah. He has spoken volumes in this, volumes of wisdom in this one sentence, and throws abundant light on the commentary of the Holy Quran related to these verses. Ar-Rahmanu Rahmanud Dunya, that the quality or attribute of Rahmaniyat has its primary application to the world of the past, or the world of materialism, or the world which is closer to us. And Rahimiyat, on the other hand, is the word of the second nature which evolves from Rahmaniyat. and travels in the future until it reaches Malikiyat and join hands with Malikiyat. Because Rahimiyat deals with the law of crime and punishment, labor and rewards. And Malik is the one who rewards or who punishes. So Rahimiyat had a natural connection with Malikiyat. So it was mentioned in juxtaposition to Malikiyat. And Rahmaniyat has been mentioned closer to Rububiyat because it has its relationship with the not only with the world of religion but also with the world of with the non-religious world. As such, I mean, before ever religion was created, Rahmaniyat was in action, and Rahmaniyat was in action before Rahimiyat. It created dunya. Now, dunya and akhirah, it's a relationship, in fact, to which Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam points out. This tradition of Ahmad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does not bifurcate this world from the world to come alone. Dunya is the word applicable to all which is closer or as a first step. All that belongs to the first step is dunya, and all which is created as a resultant is akhirah. Beginning is dunya and the end is akhirah. And this process in shorter application is observed everywhere in the world. You begin with a thing, that is your dunya, and you end up, and that is your akhirah. So Ahmad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam pointed out that without Rahmaniyat you could not begin anywhere, because Rahmaniyat is the Rahmaniyat is the power behind every creation. Without your capital, how could you go into trade? So the provider of capital, which is dunya, capital is dunya for you because you begin your journey with capital. That was provided by Rahman. And when you put in your labor and apply your mental capabilities to that capital, what is profit? That is your akhirah. Akhirah in the sense that something new value has been added to your capital. So this is what Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam meant when he said, Ar-Rahmanu Rahimul Rahmanu Dunya Var-Rahimu Rahimul Akhirah. So Rahim is mentioned with Malik and Rahman is mentioned with Ra. Now, another thing that is very interesting about this is this correlationship. That beginning your journey, but before that I must first describe Malikiyat in this relationship. Then I'll go back to another very interesting subject and the correlationship of the whole attributes mentioned in this verse. Malikiyat and Rahimiyat and Rahmaniyat and Rububiyat, going backwards, have a perfect relationship. And if you take one word out, the picture will become incomplete. All these four had to be mentioned in this order. Otherwise, the picture of the universe could not be complete. And the assurances which are given to man in this sequence could not be given to him if you take a single word out of it or out of context. Rububiyat told you or gave you the message that you were created by a being which took you up while you were nothing. Halata ala al-insani hinum min ad-dahri lam yakun shay'an mazkura. That is the sense given by or carried by Rububiyat. that why don't you ponder at your past? You were a thing in the committee of things where you were not even worthy of mention. So it was Rabb who took you up from there and brought you to this perfection and carries you onwards to further perfections. So this is Rabubiyyah, which deals with your past and with a beneficent Lord who is looking after your needs. But can he look after all your needs? Is he so perfect as to meet your future requirements as well? For that, Rahmaniyat gives you guarantee. That why are you wondering? Why are you bothering about this? Don't you know that he is Rahman? Before Rububiyyat, he had created all the things which anything could ever require. So Rububiyyat is abundantly supplied with all the material which could be required by you or put to use by you. Don't bother about it, and that material will not be exhausted. The second question which comes to one's mind is this, that if Allah is doing everything and Rahman God has provided us with everything and Rabb is taking us from the lower orders to carrying us to higher orders, then let's be idle. Why to put in labors? Why to do hard work? Anyway, we will be carried forward and upwards. So Allah says, no, He is also Rahim. When He gives you certain qualities, from then on, those qualities have to be employed and intermarried with each other. And their interplay will help your progress. This is how Rabb works in you. There are many phases of your contact or the contact of the creation with its Lord, the Lord of creation. And in some phases, He was Rabb even without your efforts. You did not have to put any effort to improve, and completely you were in the hand of your Rabb. That contact finishes with the beginning of life, in some sense, continues in another. But in one sense, it comes to an end with the beginning of life. All the inanimate life has that sort of contact established with its Lord. An atom of hydrogen has to do nothing to come into contact with an atom. Two atoms of hydrogen have to do nothing to come into contact with an atom of oxygen to make water, which is a sort of progress and organization. It is controlled completely by powers outside its control. And through that application of Rububiyyat on inanimate life and inanimate creation, Allah progressed the whole universe. But with beginning of life, a new process started. And that was the process of Rahimiyya, where you would definitely be progressed. You will definitely be carried to loftier heights. But only if you put in your own efforts, put in your own lot, and that also correctly. If you did not, then you may also lose whatever you had gained and fall back in the order so that you could revert to earlier types instead of progressing. That is Rahimiyya. It gives you a glad tidings of progress with your share in it. But also it gives you a warning that if you did not apply your share from now on, then you can revert to earlier stages as well. This has been explained, this meaning of Rahimiyat has been explained in Surah 3. خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. So that surah has its root in Rahimiyat. As I explained to you, various surahs of the Holy Quran and various subjects referred in the Holy Quran have their roots in some of the attributes of some of the verses of Surah Fatiha. So this is exactly what has been explained there. It says, قَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We created man in the best order of, let's say, taqweem is a very wide word. It means with the best formula. A formula which could not fail to work. And it was a beautiful formula applied to the creation and progress of universe. So when we created man with ahsan taqweem, summa radadnahu asfala safilin, then we returned it to its earlier stages. Or it was a sort of retrograde progress, opposite progress. But what is the purpose of all this exercise? It is futile. The Holy Quran says no. Just wait and we'll explain further. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who put in their share in that scheme of things and did good job, good works, good deeds, they were not returned to the earlier stages. There was no retroward treatment to them. For them, there was ajrun ghairu mamnoon. Unlimited progress is guaranteed to them, was guaranteed to them, and is still guaranteed to them. So that is evolution under the guidance and control of Rahimiyat. So now we are given the glad tidings that we will have our own share, and here where Ana starts, I, we, and the whole struggle of life through that ego begins. And this is further explained in various verses of the Holy Quran, but then that will take too long a time. Already we are, is that 9:15? Yes, in Fatiha. So, let's try to finish it before the Adhan time. Rahimiyat is all right, but we must be guaranteed that all our labor will be rewarded from outside, and if we make our mistakes or untoward things happen, then the labors will not be lost. Otherwise, there will be great hazard faced by man. Suppose the being which is Rahimiyat does not live long enough before the process has reached its maturity. Many a mother has died, leaving her child an orphan before the child reached a certain state of maturity. Many a government promised the people, the inhabitants of that country, that if you join hands with us, put in your labor and do that thing, we'll reward you with that and that. For industrial program, very ambitious industrial program is launched by the governments, and by the time the time of reward comes, the government is no more. A revolution has taken place. Another country has come and overpowered that government. So no guarantee. But Malik gives the guarantee. And not only Malik, Malik-i Yawmiddin, which says that every time of reward is completely within the power of Allah and controlled by God. You have come into contact with a God which is the God of not only of beginning but of the end as well. So that end can come sooner in some cases and later in some other cases. according to the translation of Yom, you make. According to the duration of that Yom. There always is a Rahman in the beginning, a Rahim in the middle, and a Malik in the end. And there can never be any effort on the part of man which can go unrewarded or unpunished. Because Malik Yawmiddin tells you that for every ending, you will find a Malik there waiting for you to reward. This has been beautifully described in other verses of the Holy Quran, the phenomena of Malik. And now when you will read those verses, then you will understand the beauty and charm of those verses. Referring them to this word Malik as it is described and as it is placed in the order of things. Then you will understand when God says that there are people who are pursuing the charm of this world. They think they are gaining things, but when they reach end, their end is like the end of a man who is pursuing mirage for the sake of water, in pursuit of water. So when he reaches that point where he thought mirage was, he finds Allah there to recompense him or to requite him or to punish him for what he did. As a Malik. So that Malik is not only to be met with after death, as I said, told you earlier, that Malik is the Malik of every phenomena of reward and punishment. So it completes the whole picture. After that, but after that, I think we better finish here because time for Rosa has come. It's a very beautiful explanation or commentary on this verse and its correlationship from a different angle. Of that I'll speak later. Assalamu alaikum.